Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Section 31. Its ongoing mission to explore new ways to be bad, to seek out new tropes and new cliches, to boldly suck where no Star Trek has sucked before. Star Trek Section 31 is literally the worst thing that has ever been produced that has the Star Trek name on it, and that includes that very troublesome action figure from Patterns of Force. This television movie starring the beautiful and talented Michelle Yeoh, who is absolutely slumming it in something that is far below her station. I have absolutely no idea what ironclad contract signed in blood that they had this poor woman sign sometime in the past to force her into doing this horrendous intergalactic slog. This is coming, by the way, from a lifelong Star Trek fan, someone who loves all of the series. From TOS to Disco, from TNG to Strange New Worlds, to Prodigy, to Deep Space Nine, even 1/3 of Star Trek Picard. I love almost everything that's got Star Trek on it, and even the things that I don't love, even things that are bad, I can at least find one thing about it that I like, but there is nothing to like about this movie. I would go so far as to say that this movie was written to be as repulsive as possible. Everything from the dialogue to the acting to the boring set designs to the ugly ships to the dull action sequences to the contrived mystery elements all seem to exist purely to piss people off. This movie is a weird amalgamation of the worst parts of David Ayer's Suicide Squad after it was gutted by studio executives and recut into something nonsensical, and the absolute worst elements of the worst Star Trek ever. How do I hate this movie? Let me count the ways. First of all, let's talk about the actors. Do you want to know who is the standout in this television movie? No one! And it has Michelle freaking Yeoh in it! Even Michelle Yeoh could not elevate the utter tripe that is written for these poor actors to say the most stilted, stupid, clunky dialogue that I have seen in years, and believe me, I have seen some terrible stuff. This movie makes Star Trek V look like Star Trek VI. And I loved Star Trek VI. Do you like action? Too bad! The action in this show is lame. It's just badly choreographed hand-to-hand fights that go on forever without direction. Even a fight that involves devices that let you walk through walls like Ghost never gets interesting. Mostly because we've already seen it in Ant-Man and the Wasps. Fights on moving platforms are dull and boring. How do you make a fight on a moving platform going 500 miles an hour down an industrial hallway boring? And how long is that hallway? And why is there such a long hallway on this abandoned planet? I swear this hallway had to be at least 75 miles long. Why? What were they keeping there? What was it for? Who was using it? Do you like mystery? Do you like movies that have a mysterious enemy whose mysterious identity is held until the mysterious end? Too bad, because once you watch the first 30 minutes of this movie, think of the first person you would suspect that the bad guy is, and you would be right, because it's just that obvious. Do you like heist movies where there's a mole in the gang and that mole has to be exposed or else the entire mission is going to fail and everyone's going to die? Too bad, because the very first person that you suspect to be the mole is the mole. Everyone in this movie is surprised. I don't know why. I mean, I was barely paying attention by that point, and I figured it out. Like, as soon as they said, there's a mole, I was like, oh, yeah, it's that character right there. And I was right. And the acting, great bird of the galaxy. The acting in this movie is atrocious. I do not want to besmirch the wonderful Michelle Yeoh, but she honestly seems so over it in this movie, like she was just waiting for this project to get off the ground for so long that by the time it finally did come around, all of the passion had been crushed out of her, and she just wanted to get it all over with. And my God, somebody call Neelix and tell him the good news that he's not the worst and most annoying character in Star Trek anymore. I never really thought Neelix was the worst character in Star Trek. I just know most people do, and I wanted to make the joke. Neelix is an angel, and you don't deserve him. We have a new worst character in Star Trek, and it's Fuzz! Every single time Fuzz was on the screen, I wanted to punch him in the face with a brick for an hour. His ever-shifting accent, that horrible, stupid falsetto laugh, his dumb quirks and mannerisms, he was like Freddy Krueger nails on a chalkboard while a cat was screeching from pain and a dog was being slowly run over by a steamroller. This character made me physically angry every time he was on screen, and that is an accomplishment, let me tell you. Because I can withstand a lot, but this guy, no way. He's the worst. I hate him to the point that I'm hoping this movie never gets a sequel or a continuation, and there's no more spin-offs of Star Trek, because I don't even want the possibility of this character returning in any form whatsoever, other than a memorial plaque in some museum that said he was eaten alive by Targs on the Klingon homeworld because they didn't like his laugh. There were parts in this movie that I swear William Shatner was watching at home and actually said to himself, "Will you please dial it back just a little bit?" Did I mention that this movie is very cheap looking? Because this movie is very cheap looking. It's like a Ferengi was in charge of the budget and then embezzled 75% of it for himself. The compositions in the shots are flat. The staging of every scene can best be described with the words, "The camera goes in a circle around the actors." In so many scenes set outside, fire erupts from the ground for almost no reason other than it's supposed to look cool, which it doesn't. Interior sets are drab, unappealing, and yes, ugly. And it all looks cheap. This looks like something from a Saturday morning cartoon. My good friend VHS Jace said that it looked like Jason of Star Command. I wouldn't go that far, because I don't want to insult Jason of Star Command in such a horrible manner. Oh, the plot. Well, the basic plot of this movie is that while she was Empress of the Terran Empire, which is a whole thing that I don't want to go into in great detail because it would make this review even more bloated than it already is, but let's just say Philippa Georgiou, played by Michelle Yeoh, was the Empress of the Terran Empire, and that was a bad thing for that universe. Parallel universe, by the way. She was super evil, super powerful, and cold as ice. And while she was doing that, she had this thing invented called the God's End, which was this doomsday device that will, as far as I can tell, blow everything up. That's it. It just blows everything up or gives them a virus or I don't know. But now bad people have gotten their hands on it and they're going to use it to cripple the Federation. And that would be bad. Bad enough you would figure that the Federation would actually get involved. After all, these sort of universe-ending catastrophes is right up the alley of the good old Federation and Starfleet. But for some reason, they've passed the buck to Section 31, a black ops team that is off the books and gets things done with absolutely no backup whatsoever. Because whenever your entire universe is about to be destroyed, you want to send a ragtag group of idiots with no support or spaceships behind them. I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is, why is this even a Section 31 movie? There's nothing about this that should have been an undercover mission. This should have been an all hands on deck, get every single starship out into the universe with a full spread of photon torpedoes and phasers turned up to 11 so that we can blast some stuff because we don't want the galaxy destroyed because we like the place and that's where I keep all my stuff. In addition to being the most irritating movie with the most irritating cast and the most irritating writing, the entire plot of this movie makes no sense. This is a movie with such a glaring damn plot hole that the movie shouldn't exist. Captain Kirk should be out there blowing up spaceships and bedding down whatever alien space babe he can find, solving this problem for them. But no, we have to do Star Trek Suicide Squad Ocean's 11 with the characters trying to be snarky and failing at every single moment. Listen, I'm all for Star Trek taking chances and doing something that we've never seen before. I was actually looking forward to this film for that very reason. But this was not the vibe. There is actually nothing daring about this entire movie. It's so by the book and by the numbers with such a tight grip on its purse that nothing is exciting. It's dull, it's boring, and it's anger-inducing. Section 31 is a gigantic pile of anthropomorphic changeling poop. William Shatner must be out on the street screaming at the top of his lungs in great, joyous laughter, a huge smile on his face, because he's no longer responsible for the worst Star Trek movie in the entire franchise, because this is it! Section 31 is the worst Star Trek movie ever, and that angers me, because it didn't have to be that way. This could have been the start of something great. The return of Star Trek movies! Even if they were direct to streaming, we could have gotten new Star Trek movies! But I just have a feeling that Section 31 has set its suck phaser to kill and destroyed any chance of it. As a lifelong Star Trek fan, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And mad. I very rarely agree with the rage-baiting detractors of so-called New Trek, because I think they're a bunch of whiny little babies who are still crying because the Klingons looked a little different than they did in Star Trek The Next Generation, and ew, black woman in charge, that's bad! But I'm actually on their side this time, and believe me, it takes an act of the great koala to do that. This movie is the worst. I think the fact that they were spending most of the movie on this ugly garbage scow spaceship is appropriate because they were just flying around in what this movie is. This movie is garbage, and it should be hauled away as garbage. Usually, I don't get this mad, but I'm angry. I'm so angry about this movie. It's like letting somebody babysit my dog, the bestest boy in the world, the most wonderful thing in my life, only for them to take it outside in the parking lot, douse it with kerosene, and set it on fire in front of me, and then go, yeah, look at the good job I did. I did good job. Duh! How dare they make something this lazy and this atrocious? How dare they make this and nobody said a word? Nobody raised a red flag. Nobody said, you know what? I'm pretty sure this movie we're putting together is going to be the biggest ball of rancid feces that the galaxy's ever seen, and no Star Trek fan actually wants to see this. But no. If there is a final frontier to Section 31, it must be to be an entertaining film, because they've never achieved it and likely never will. Please like, share, and subscribe, and, join me on Patreon. It'll cheer me up because this has really put me in a terrible mood. This movie was literally the worst thing ever. It has phasered my will to live. I no longer want to exist in a universe where Section 31, the movie, exists. I want to wake up tomorrow and find out that this movie was a bad dream, and that I actually just lost my leg to diabetes. Because it would be preferable.